a big impact on the game, but 3 pluses, no minuses, making a positive impact both in run blocking and the receiving game as a receiver. Mike Wallace does not get enough credit for his run blocking. He actually does that remarkably well for a number one wide receiver. Thielen, 1 plus, no minuses, and then rounding out our offensive line. Our best offensive linemen individually were Joe Berger and TJ Clemmings, the rookie. That's right, Berger only had 2 minuses, and Clemmings only had 2 minuses. Our next best lineman was Matt Khalil with 4 minuses and 1 plus to his name. And then by far, our 2 worst linemen, once again, as it has been pretty much every week, both guards. The guard play on our offensive line is barely passable at best. Fusco is clueless over there. That's the one difference I see from Sullivan not being out there. It's not from we're not losing anything with Sullivan, who, by the way, had a surgery again and is out now for the rest of the season. No idea if and when he'll ever come back to playing football for the Vikings or anyone for that matter. So bad news there. Berger's the guy from here on out. And Berger, like I said, we haven't lost anything from a blocking standpoint. What we've lost is Fusco being a left guard now and not a right guard, and not having Sullivan hold his hand and baby him and point out on every single play, this is exactly what you need to do and look for and who to block and who not to block and how to handle situations. Effing Fusco, that's something I found myself saying over and over the last several weeks. Every time I'm watching tape, why didn't that play work? Oh, effing Fusco. Why didn't that play work? What happened there? Oh, effing Fusco. Fusco freaking sucks, okay? He's terrible at left guard. He was the worst lineman on the team again for the how manyth consecutive week now here in a row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minuses to 1 plus. And right guard Harris had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minuses to his 1 plus. So the guard play's terrible. The offensive line play overall, though, very, very good. And then rounding out with the refs were okay in this game too while we're at it. Then closing up with the defense before we move on quickly here, trying to get through everything else that we got as fast as I can. If you can't tell, B-Rob, Brian Robeson, not playing particularly well, 2 minuses and a plus. Played okay, though. Johnson in place of injured starter Sharif Floyd, who also had a surgery. However, his is much more minor. He is expected to be out between 2 to 4 weeks. So Tom Johnson will continue to start in his spot at that number 2 defensive tackle spot. He played fairly well, had a bogus penalty call, should have been called for a penalty, but wasn't. Had 3 pluses to 2 minuses, so not a bad showing. Linval, great showing. 3 pluses, only 1 minus. Everson Griffin got called for a penalty that he should have been called on several times. Him and Johnson both love to line up in the neutral zone and break that rule until they get penalized for it. He did once. He had 2 pluses to go along with 2 minuses. Daniil Hunter, rookie, got in with 1 plus. Chad Greenway, 2 pluses to 1 minus. Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks played like crap. Their statistics will suggest otherwise because they get sacks and they get tackles. Outside of the sacks, they did not do very good at all against the run or in pass coverage. Let's see. They both did pretty terrible. They both had the exact same score. Both Kendricks and Barr, by my film grade, ended up with 3 pluses and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minuses each. They each had 8 minuses and they each had 3 pluses. Poor performance. They need to play better. They're making way too many mental errors. And I'm telling you right now, all a team has to do to put up 40 points on the Vikings is pass the ball over the middle of the field. Run slants, drags, ins. That's all you got to do. You will destroy the Minnesota Vikings defense because we have no one in coverage in that part of the field ever on any play, it seems like. So there you go. If you're listening, Vikings foes, just quick passes, middle of the field. You'll kill us. Audie Cole had 1 plus, no minus, got on there. Rhodes, 2 minuses, 2 penalties that were total BS, and a plus. So a really good game, actually, when you're going against Calvin Johnson for the majority of it. But in regards to Rhodes' 2 penalties, he does this every week. He is the most highly penalized corner in the NFL this year, and the reason for that is he does the same thing that every Vikings DB does every week, and that is refuse to locate and play the football when it is in the air. Every Vikings defensive back refuses to turn around, locate, and play the ball when it's in the air. They run with their responsibility, their man, and then they stick their arms and hands in the passing lane of his arms when they think the ball is getting close. And because of that, any contact is illegal. When the guy you're covering is putting his hands up in front of his face and staring at a spot in the sky, and you're running with him, looking at him, that's your cue to turn your head around. All you have to do is turn your head around, and then you're going for the ball too. And contact is allowable and legal and within the rules. So it's a really simple correctable thing, but week after week, every Vikings player does it, and that leads me to believe that it's a coaching issue and isn't going to get corrected anytime soon, because that's just not what they're being taught. And if they're not being taught something, you can't expect them to do it. Terrence Newman, and Trey Waynes, no minuses, no pluses, fairly irrelevant. Captain Munnerlyn, 3 pluses, no minuses, playing great as always this year. And then Harrison Smith, again, a poor game by my measurements, 3 minuses and a plus. And Sendejo getting 2 rare pluses. I couldn't believe that, to go along with his 4 minuses. All right, so there is your Vikings recap and film grades. Who sucked, who rocked in last week's game, according to my expert elite football mind. As I mentioned, this next week coming up, they will be on the road in Chicago, taking on division rival the Bears. So long as we get another good performance overall from our offensive line as a unit, play another turnover-free game. We weren't throwing interceptions, we weren't fumbling the ball, and then defensively just continue to do what we've been doing. There's no reason that we shouldn't easily beat the Chicago Bears team. But speaking of that, let's recap last week's games real quick league-wide, which, again, I only picked 2 wrong out of all 14 games. I picked 12 winners correctly last week. Let's go over those, and then we'll do our picks for next week's game and be done with our football spew and move on. Again, we got so much to cram in here in such a little time. That's what she said. All right, so in the Thursday night game last week, we had the Seahawks on the road in San Francisco win 20-3 because the Niners are terrible. The Seahawks aren't that terrible yet. Then Sunday morning, early over across the pond in London, right before tea time, the Jacksonville Jaguars got a huge lead on the Buffalo Bills, who then came back from that huge lead and took the lead, only to lose it to the Jaguars in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. Jaguars victorious 34-31. Bills were once again without starting quarterback Tyrod Taylor. E.J. Manuel played in his place. The Atlanta Falcons won an embarrassing win on the road in Tennessee by a score of 10-7. Very unimpressive, but a win is a win. St. Louis Rams win at home 24-6 over the Cleveland Browns, and they are proud to be. We had the Minnesota Vikings on the road winning 28-19, as I mentioned, over the Lions. The Colts lose at home to the Saints, one of the 2 games I picked wrong, by a final score of 27-21. They are 3-4 and still in first place in their division. So last year's NFC South is this year's AFC South. Then we had the Steelers losing on the road to Kansas City, 23-13, behind first game starter Landry Jones at quarterback. I predicted that one right. We had the Dolphins winning at home to the terrible Houston Texans, 44-26. Story there, Ryan Mallett missed the team plane or bus or whatever because he's a douchebag idiot, and now he's cut and no longer has a job. So find out next week who signed Ryan Mallett, if anyone was dumb enough to, but I'm sure someone is desperate enough to. And he will have a job by the time we show airs next week, I'm guessing. But for now, he is unemployed. But yeah, Dolphins victorious. They're 2-0 under their new interim head coach, and things looking to at least be moving in the right direction in Miami. We had the Jets lose a very close, entertaining division game on the road in New England to the Patriots. Final score 30-23. We had the Buccaneers lose in a thriller that I watched the end of in Washington to the Redskins, 31-30. Afterwards, Kirk Cousins led the game-winning drive through the game-winning touchdown for the Redskins. He's walking to the locker room. He stares down the camera in the locker room and, "You like that? You like that?" Check it out. Kirk Cousins, you like that. Search the video if you didn't see it. Freaking awesome. I've always liked Kirk Cousins, been fond of him. Had no reason not to like him. I have more reason to like him even more now after that. Check it out. You'll love it or you'll hate it. Either way, you'll find it entertaining. And then the other game I had wrong, we had the Oakland Raiders beat the San Diego Chargers in San Diego 37-29. Cowboys lose on the road to the Giants 27-20. Matt Castle, big surprise, he can't win in the Cowboys as their starting quarterback. They had a better chance with Whedon, but they're idiots in Dallas. Jones, Garrett, they're both morons. They're intense in the right place always, but they're idiots. Eagles lose in the Sunday night game, as correctly predicted by me, to the Carolina Panthers in Carolina 27-16. That puts the Giants back in first place in the NFC East, who were in like second or third place after losing to the Eagles last week. They were in second. Eagles held the tiebreaker, and I saw some crazy stat that after last week the Eagles had like a 60-some% chance of winning the division, and the Giants had only like a 13% chance or something. I'm like, they're tied, and they're the better team. How that... Stupid. But anyway, and then the final Monday night game, we had the Ravens losing in Arizona to the Cardinals 26-18. All right, so let's get to our picks for this week's game. We're not going to give you the standings. We will just assume that you know them or at least have a general idea of them. All right, so in the Thursday night game, we get another great division rivalry match, as that's what they're giving us again mostly on Thursdays. Primarily because last year everybody complained about how terrible the Thursday night games and matchups were, to the point that they even contemplated asked the question of, do we get rid of Thursday night football altogether because the product is so crummy. No complaints so far from anyone this year, but we got the resurgent Dolphins on the road against division rival New England Patriots. No reason to think the Patriots are going to lose that game, but again, it should be a close, competitive, entertaining game like the one the Patriots found themselves in last week at home against the Jets. Then we've got the Detroit Lions starting out Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I believe that game is in London as well. Detroit Lions fired their offensive coordinator after their terrible performance against the Vikings last week. I believe that is going to be them, that combined with the fact that they've still got crappy coach Caldwell at the head coach, a mess on the offensive line, a very mediocre at best defense. I think the Kansas City Chiefs will make it 2 in a row, build off their momentum against the Steelers, and win this game in London against the Detroit Lions, but it is kind of a coin flip. The fact that Detroit will have new offensive play calling does give them an advantage as far as game planning against them not having things on film. Then we've got the Buccaneers at the Falcons. Falcons should crush in that one. Vikings at Bears. Vikings all the way. Should not be that close and competitive of a game, similar to last week against the Lions. Bengals at Steelers. Big Ben is planning on starting, semi-limited in practice, but looks like it's going to be a go, not 100% for sure. Whether he is or isn't a go, Bengals will win that game. Next time they meet, though, the Steelers with a healthy Big Ben might be victorious. Moving on, we got the Cardinals on the road at the Browns. For some reason, I smell a shocker here in this one. Cleveland at home is just way better, different team. Cardinals on the road. You know what? Let's freaking go crazy. You should pick the Cardinals. I should pick the Cardinals. But I'm going to pick Cleveland just because I've got this hunch. Cleveland at home. Cardinals on the road. I don't know. I think McCown's going to throw for another 400-plus yards. And yeah, I'm inexplicably picking the Cleveland Browns to win that game. And now here in by far the worst game. The losers in this game, this next game, are the people watching it, paying ticket price to watch this. But we've got the Tennessee Titans on the road at the Houston Texans. Both of these teams stink. Let's just go with the home team. Maybe J.J. Watt will get after Marcus Mariota or Zach Mettenberger if Marcus Mariota is still not healthy. We'll take Texans just because they both stink. We go with the home team. Then we've got the 49ers on the road at the St. Louis Rams. Rams are a great pick in an eliminator league this week. Rams all the way at home crush the Niners. We've got the Giants on the road at the Saints. Both teams unpredictable and inconsistent. Giants are definitely the better team, though, so far this year. Going with the Giants on the road to beat the Saints. Chargers at Ravens. It's just Ravens are on their way to a top 5 pick this year, and that's all there is to it. Chargers still have a little bit to play for. So we go Chargers on the